we are actually very privileged now to have someone who has studied AI and looked into AI for the past 3 decades. A good friend of mine who actually took the option to leave Singapore, his hometown, and work in the US for the last 3 decades, and recently just come back to Asia. So Professor Xiao, welcome back to Asia, and we're very happy that, having come back to Asia, one of our first task is to share with us your experience that you have accumulated over the years. Professor Xiao is actually Professor Chair in the Department of Information System at the City University of Hong Kong. So all the way from Hong Kong piping through, we have Professor Xiao. And King, over to you to share your experience.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Oliver. So I've known Oliver for probably more than 30 years. So we were classmates at the NUS, National University of Singapore. So as Oliver mentioned, I just came back to Asia 2 months ago. And so I was 1 month in quarantine in Hong Kong, and then I just more or less have my freedom since about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So again, my name is Xiao. The way I put my name is US style. So it's my full name is Xiao King Ling. Xiao is my last name. In the US, you put 3 names. They always get confused whether which one is your last name. So after a few mishap at the beginning of my career, I decided that I just use 2 names and then middle initial. So at least they won't get confused. So Xiao is my last name. King is my first name. My middle name is Ling, L-E-N-G. All right, so currently I'm the department head and chair professor at the Department of Information Systems, City University of Hong Kong. So I joined them 2 months ago in June. And most of you may not be familiar with City University of Hong Kong. It's actually ranked pretty well. It's number 53 in the QS World University Rankings. And the Department of Information Systems is probably one of the top, usually one of the top 5 in the world in terms of information systems research. So it's a fairly big unit and a very interesting and exciting place for me to join. My research interest lately has been looking at more or less AI, robotics and automation, and their economic and social impact. I'm in the business school, so I don't look at the algorithms for machine learning, etc., but I look at the economic and social impact, the future of work, the future of humanities, etc. The other interest I have is on business analytics and data science, big data, which currently is also not too far away from AI. The two are actually merging. So some more information about me. So I did my BS in NUS, 89, MS and finished in 91, and then I went over to UBC, University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. It's a very nice place for retirement. Okay, not necessarily for making money, but for retirement, it's a nice place. So it's a place for rich people, right? So I was there for 4 years for my PhD, and then after that I was in US working for the last 25 years. Yeah, I only came back to Asia, to Hong Kong 2 months ago. The main reason is because my wife and my families are out in Singapore. So Hong Kong is much nearer to Singapore. So easy for us to visit them. So today I'm supposed to talk about this AI readiness, the great expectations. And I will present both point of view in terms of good expectations and something that we should avoid, okay, the expectation that we do not want to have. Okay. So let's start off with something that's not so good first. Right, you look at this Stephen Hawking. So before he passed away, he was really, really concerned about AI and how AI will replace humans altogether. You do a top left-hand corner. And so we are at the most dangerous moment in the development of humanity. And the rise of AI will extend job destruction, not creation, job destruction, deep into the middle class. Okay, only the most caring, creative, and supervisory roles will remain in the job prospects. Now, even for Elon Musk, so he's also very concerned about AI. So at the bottom left, you see that the danger of AI is much greater than nuclear warheads. And on the right-hand side, bottom right, we say that we want to have more oversight on AI. I think that's really important, and probably we'll touch on that slightly later. So these are more or less the somewhat negative viewpoint on the development of AI. This is a fairly old study, 1617. So when I look at AI at that point in time, this was a big news that they say that, okay, if you look at the job prospect, a lot of jobs will be automated. Of course, we are concerned about job automation because if the majority of people cannot have jobs, then they create a lot of social unrest. So according to that study by the Oxford, it says 77% of the China jobs are at risk of automation. In the UK, 35%, in the US, about 47%. And then McKinsey also at the bottom, it says about 800 million jobs could be lost worldwide to automation. Okay, so these are job destruction. Now, of course, we need to look at job creation. Okay, there are job destruction, also job creation. Okay, they are the other side of it. So Bill Gates is a more positive view. He say AI is on the verge of making our lives more productive and creative. So if a machine can do most of the job, then we may have more time to relax, maybe lie on the beach and maybe think about what we want to do, and maybe pick up some hobbies and do some arts. Okay, even the Facebook founder and CEO. So AI is going to make our lives better in the future. So that's another aspect. And this senior vice president of Google. So machine learning and AI is extremely important and will revolutionize many vertical industries. Okay, so these are some of the more positive viewpoints. Now, why are there so much disagreement on what is the future of AI? I guess they are talking about different viewpoints. Okay. So you look at AI. Of course, you know what is AI. AI has different categories. One is what we call the weak AI, or artificial narrow intelligence, like self-driving car. Well, that's a narrow AI. You can only drive the car. You cannot do anything else. If you look at like those speech to text-to-text translation, converting from English to Chinese, those Google Translate. Okay, that's probably weak AI as well. But it's huge development. I know some of you probably has tried this Google Translate 4 or 5 years ago when it just came out. It was a joke, right? When you see a translation English to Chinese, you say, what kind of translation is that? But nowadays, you try that, you probably feel that it's not too bad. Okay, it's not too bad. But that's a weak AI. It can only do translation. Okay, you cannot drive the car. Now, what the other people like Elon Musk and Steven Spielberg or Stephen Hawking are concerned about is what they call the strong AI. That's when AI development come to a stage where they can actually do most of the things that human can do. And once you reach that point, they may even do better. They will excel much better than humans. So they will surpass the human. And that's where the concern is, okay, about the AI, the strong AI. We are not so much concerned about self-driving car or Google Translator. Okay, those are weak AI. So we are not concerned too much about that. But when it comes to strong AI, yes, we have to have some policy, some management control implemented. So look at the implication on the economy. Okay, so the orange one will be the employment growth, but because of aging population, let's say China was previously a one-child policy, and then they moved to two-child. And if I'm not mistaken, they even encourage people to have more kids at this point in time. You can afford it. Of course, some of us are from Singapore. Singapore always have a problem of replacing itself in terms of population, because once you reach a developed economy status, a lot of people are not too concerned about having kids, right? So that's an issue. So in the future, you look at it, the development based on hard labor, okay, more human beings, more live human beings, warm bodies, is going to decrease, but the productivity growth due to automation is going to probably be the one that is important for the economy to grow. So that's something that sometimes people are concerned about. But if your population is decreasing, then that's good. That one automation can supplement your declining population. But if your population is increasing as well, and then your automation is also increasing, then that becomes a problem, right? So how are most of the people going to find jobs? So that's the issue. So if one is decreasing, one is increasing, number of human beings on Earth is decreasing, number of automation increasing. Wow, they complement each other fairly nicely. So that's something we need to think about as well, and we may discuss that later on. So some of the main applications, I think probably most of us are aware of this. Okay, automated cars, that's probably one of the poster child of AI. Okay, we also have eventually the commercial truck, and also the transit services. I believe in NUS, National Institute of Singapore campus, they also have this transit service that is automated, no driver. Okay, might travel around on a fixed schedule and a fixed route. And of course, eventually we want to have home deliveries that can deliver things to our home by drone, by air, or by land, without any physical person driving the drones or the vehicles. So the AI implication on transportation is important. Now, we look at it, okay, this is an important point. If you look at the US, you look at the states, 50 states, you Google most popular job in the states. A lot of states, the most popular job is truck driving. Yes, truck driving. I was shocked also. When I look at that about 3-4 years ago, there was a radio channel related to all those truckers, and they asked me to give a talk on AI. And so I did Google number of truckers, people driving trucks in the US, a huge proportion. If you have driven in the US before, you can see on the highway, there are lots and lots and lots of trucks. Right, so if all the trucks are going to be automated, that becomes an issue. Right, so what are the truckers going to do? That's a good paying jobs, middle class jobs. Okay, without little education, you know how to drive a truck, you can be a middle class. So if those are replaced, become a big issue. Not just the truck drivers. Along the highway in the US, if you're in the US, you'll see a lot of motels. You'll see a lot of like fast food services. You see a lot of small towns. They are catering to all those trucks industry for truck drivers to stay overnight, for them to take a shower, for them to take a meal, for them to rest. So a lot of things are all linked to this truck driving. So if the truckers are replaced by driverless car or driverless truck, okay, all those related services will be affected as well. Okay, driverless car don't have to sleep, so the motels will be affected. They don't have to eat, so all the restaurant on the highway will be affected. And they usually is not supposed to get into accident much. So do we need a lot of traffic police? Probably not. So the police force will be affected. So the ripple effect, the chain reaction will be huge. So this is a big thing in the US. That's why the truck driving or truck drivers unions, they are very, very concerned about this driverless truck because they are going to impact their industry big time. Now, the other one is the AI implication on financial services. I'm in Hong Kong now. Hong Kong is a financial hub, somewhat similar to Singapore. So there's a lot of things that can be automated, and AI can play a role to make, let's say, a more personalized service, better marketing strategy, and how to tailor the service to the client, especially high-end clients, like, for example, wealth management. Okay, so AI has a lot of implication on that. The next one is fairly loaded. I don't want to go through all of them, but you look at some of the important things. Okay, so let's look at the one up here first. How to interpret the different colors and the size. So the ability to automate. So the bigger the black means not so easy, whereas the orange should be fairly easy to automate. And then the size of the bubbles, okay, depends on what's the percentages. Okay, what's the weightage. So for example, look at the first one. Okay, in terms of accommodation and food services. Well, somewhat easy to automate. We have hotels in Japan. I think you Google, you see some hotels in Japan, they are fully automated. A lot of robots running around. Okay, so that's something that's fairly easy to automate. Okay, I don't go too much into this. It's a fairly loaded slides. But this one probably have a bit more information that's easy to digest. So the on the left-hand side, least safe job. You look at fast food cook. Wow, that one requires very little training, almost no training. You press a button, the thing go down into the burning oil. After maybe 3 minutes, it will come out. Okay, it's ready to be served. Okay. Taxi driver. It can be taken over by a driverless car. Okay, telemarketer, chance of automation pretty high. Okay, those are quite easy to have. Those auto call, sometimes pretty annoying. They call you all the time. Yeah, so those are called by robots, not called by human. The safest job, I was considering to be a priest. It cannot be automated. You don't want to confess your sins to a robot, right? Doesn't make sense. You're supposed to confess your sins to the God, and you created the robots. So how come you confess your sin to the robot? Okay, so those require spiritual guidance. Those require a lot of maybe mentoring, counseling. Those jobs are not easy to be replaced. Okay. So you look at some of those probability on the right hand most, right? Some of the things that can be automated, like the telemarketer, wow, likelihood is very high. Those dentists, not so much. Okay, athletic trainer, not so much. Therapist, not so much. So that has a lot of implication on in the future, what kind of jobs, what kind of training, what kind of education we should be providing. Okay, very important. I'm in the education industry. I'm in the education environment, so I need to know all this. Now you look at different task categories. I did a paper some time ago, probably 2-3 years ago, on this. So I look at what kind of tasks are important or safe from automation, and what kind of tasks are really dangerous, can be automated easily. So I basically break it down into two types, structured and unstructured tasks, okay? And then routine and non-routine tasks. Okay, as the name implies, okay, routine tasks, you do that all the time. Non-routine tasks, you do that once in a while, once in a blue moon. Structured tasks, you can clearly define it. Unstructured tasks require a lot of judgment and intuition. So you put it together in a 2x2. So if it's a structured task, okay, and it's a routine task, you do that all the time, and that's easy to learn and program, okay, and that's also very prone to automation, because it can be worthwhile for the company to automate those tasks. It's a structured task, but non-routine may not be cost effective. It may be easy to do and very structured, but you do that once a month or once a year. Well, do you want to spend a few $1 million to have an IT system or AI system to do that? Probably not. Now, unstructured tasks and routine, well, you may want to automate that, but it's not easy. It's unstructured tasks. How are you going to train the machine to understand all those the things that are unstructured? Okay, that requires a lot of intuition, a lot of maybe common sense and experience. Not easy. Unstructured and non-routine. First, it's not cost effective to learn and to program, and also very difficult to learn and program. So if I were to tell my students what kind of career, what kind of job you want to aim for, I would say go for this, a non-routine job, non-routine task, and unstructured tasks. Okay, so you are paid very high. So for example, those let's say lawyers, they are involved in merger of companies. Okay, it's very unstructured, it's non-routine. Okay, those lawyers are paid really, really well. Okay, so those be the kind of job that we want to do or want to train people for. Well, we don't want to have this kind of job. We train people for structured and routine tasks. Those can be automated very easily. So AI impact on skill set. Jack Ma is fairly quiet now, but in the past he was fairly outspoken. So he did say a lot of very interesting stuff. So he said that in education in the last 200 years, we are focusing on manufacturing. Okay, today it's because of AI, because of robots. Okay, manufacturing is no longer the main engine of creating jobs. You look at warehouses run by robots most of the time. You look at those factories, a lot of time they're automated, especially like car manufacturing. Most of the times a lot of tasks are done by robots, not human. So the way we're going to educate our children, our kids, in the next few decades, we'll have to be very careful. We want to compete not on, let's say, calculation. How fast can you calculate? You're not going to beat the machine. Yeah, they're going to compute faster than you. So even now, I know that when I was young, I can compute much faster. Now I have to rely on calculator. Even for simple addition and subtraction, I have to double check my answer with the calculator, because I hardly do that mentally anymore. And machine will always do better. So we have to teach our kids to be very innovative, very creative. Okay, that's how we're going to create jobs for our kids and for our future generation, not to compete with machines. Things that machine can do well, you're not going to beat the machine. So stay away from those kind of jobs. So the top 10 skills that some people came up with, okay, in the future: analytical thinking, innovation, can come up with new ideas, okay, do analysis. Nowadays, the robots are still not that good. In the future, they may be good, but not now. Active learning and learning strategies, how we can continuously learn. In the past, you may graduate and then, okay, you join a company, you have an iron rice bowl. Now we don't have iron rice bowl anymore. If you are not up to date, you'll be released. Especially, I think in Singapore, PMAC, okay, 50 years old, 45. Wow, you're earning high pay, but if you are not competing as fast as the young person or as fast as a machine, sorry, you may not have a job, right? So in the industry, they are very bottom line sensitive. Complex problem solving, critical thinking, analysis, creativity kind of work, leadership, okay, how to lead. Okay, currently, we're still not using the machine to lead us, not at this point in time. But although some people are predicting that in the future, we can actually train the machine, robots, to be better leaders. We are having the leadership qualities. We don't have all the qualities, but good leadership qualities inside that. So the machine may actually be able to do a better job. Technology use, okay, how to adapt to new technology all the time. The resilience and stress tolerance and flexibility. Reasoning, problem solving, ideation, okay, very important. Do something that the robots are not doing well at this point in time. So don't compete with the robots or the machine head on. You're not going to win. So pick on something that they are not good and then try to excel on that. So impact education. So competing directly with AI is not going to be a wise choice. It's futile. I like the Star Trek and this Borg. Okay, this species. Okay, resistance is futile. Okay, so don't try and compete with the AI all the time, and don't try to resist AI. It's coming. Yeah, you're not going to wipe AI off our vocabulary and off our planet. It's coming, and you just have to adapt to that. Strong background in traditional hard skill, writing, mathematics, science. Well, you always have a place. Although it's getting probably less and less. So we have machine that can prove theorems. We have AI program that can write better. And they're predicting that probably in about 30, 40 years time, the bestseller will be written by a AI program, okay, not a human. And a soft skill, creativity, problem solving, collaboration, communication skill, interpersonal skill, leadership, empathy, adaptability are becoming more and more critical for human and for younger generation to excel and to complement, okay, and work together and supplement AI. So new development in AI, okay, some new research area, okay, like safety and security, data sharing, okay, high quality data. Okay, biased data is a big problem now because of machine learning. You feed the machine with biased data, the output will be biased, right? So especially for, let's say, HR, human resources, in terms of recruitment, okay, we talk about equality, diversity, all those things. If you use past data, most likely the data is biased, and then the outcome of using the AI will be biased as well. So that's something that's very important. Okay, AI effect on employment, training, education. Singapore provide a lot of funding for retraining, reskilling, so that's important. Okay, ethical and explainable AI. A lot of machine learning, they cannot explain themselves. They say, this is my recommendation. You say, why? Say, well, they cannot explain. So that becomes an issue. Can you trust the recommendation, not knowing the reasoning process? Okay, so US, at least in the US, the government is placing a lot of money on trying to make the AI explainable, so they can explain the decision, why it comes out with this recommendation. So ethical and decision making. So again, very important. And we need to regulate and manage the development and evolution of AI. You cannot just let it run wild. Okay, you cannot just let the scientists run wild as well. You have to regulate and manage the process. For example, we can now clone human, but the law say that you cannot do that. Okay, you cannot clone a human. Okay, but the technology is there. So same thing. We have to have regular policies, regulation, laws to prevent those things that we do not want. So the policy is very important. Okay, the government policy, the industry policy is very important. So AI will be getting better and better, and we know that. And they don't have to sleep. They don't have to spend your kids, your son and daughters, your grandchildren will need to spend 20 years studying. They can always improve and continuously improve. They do not have to sleep. They do not have to reproduce and have a new AI that's totally know nothing, right? So we are not going to beat them, okay, because of the evolution process. We just have to, we don't live forever, and our offsprings need to spend 20, 30 years learning the process. So we need to enhance our strength, which is the weakness of AI, and that'll be important. And then we can, AI and human, we need to work together, okay? Complement and supplement each other. That's important. So we want the future to be on the left-hand side, and we try to manage the process. We do not want to have those Terminator scenarios. That's not what we want. Okay, although you look at all the military in the world, especially those advanced military, they are all building killing robots, killer drones, killer robots everywhere. Of course, they are doing that. Yeah, because then the cost is cheaper, and then they do not have to have human casualty. But it may run out of control. So we do not want that. We want left-hand side, okay, where we work together for the good of humanities, for the good of our future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Xiao. Very enlightening indeed. A lot of discussions certainly bring to light concerns and fears, and probably enlightenment in many of what we think. In fact, while you were presenting, I did a poll in the audience to ask what they think AI will, how much it will develop over the next 5 years. Clearly, the general feeling is it will have a great impact on our lives, and we probably need a new generation of AI talents, because that's going to be very critical for us to continue to adapt our lives to use AI. And like you say, right, the human-machine collaboration is an extremely important discussion that we need to have, right? When to use the calculator, when not to use. Very important example, right? In the past, teachers will knock on your fingers and say, "Don't touch the calculator," until you're mentally calculated. But now we say, use it, right? Speed up. Don't compete with the computing power. So thank you very much,
Thank you,
Professor Xiao. This has been wonderful to have you share with us your experience and different topics. For the audience, thank you very much. This is the last presentation session. Next, we will have a panel where all the speakers will come together and discuss the topic around AI, and particularly the idea is to explore how do we ensure the readiness of AI deployment, and more importantly, to understand the impact of AI deployment in the organization. So that panel will start very shortly. And thank you again, Professor Xiao. See you all in the next session. Thank you. Bye for now.